Hi, and welcome to Season 4 of Beyond Teaching, brought to you by the Psych Sessions Network. This series is hosted by Susan Nolan from Seton Hall University, Adiyinka Akinseler-Smith from City College of New York, City University of New York, Asani Sewell from LGS Legacy Weight Diabetes Institute, and yours truly, Eric Landrum from Boise State University. For now. The Psych Sessions podcast Beyond Teaching is all about the teaching, research, and clinical skills that psychological scientists need to know about to be successful. You know, all the survival skills needed to thrive in the academic or clinical workspace beyond your formal graduate school training. All the stuff that we were never taught while we were in the graduate school classroom. For Season 4, we have 12 episodes in store for you, with a weekly release starting July 2022 and delightfully stretching into October 2022, helping you make that transition from summer to fall, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, that is, whether you are on the semester system or the quarter system. What's in store? We'll discuss the importance of staying up to date, helping students with personal statements and Sparkbirds, student researchers, what a unionized campus looks like, a peek at the life of adjunct faculty from two different perspectives, interacting with the media, cleaning out your office, and it might not be one of the four of us you thought it would be, saying yes or no, and Maria Banford's advice about that topic, ascension and doctoral versatility, dealing with professorial conflicts, and taking tenure out for a spin, and career sustainability in the face of the Great Resignation, or what you might call the Big Quit. In Season 4, we also had guests join us for 3 of the 12 episodes. I'm not going to tell you who or which episodes. That way you'll be curious and you'll want to listen in order to satisfy that natural curiosity that you have. So there. Please enjoy Season 4 of Beyond Teaching. Hello, and welcome to another edition of Beyond Teaching. I'm Eric Landrum, one of your 4 hosts, and I'm going to let my other 3 hosts introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Yinka Akinseler-Smith from City College of New York.
Masani Sewell from Pacific University.
And I'm Susan Nolan from Seton Hall University. So today we're going to talk about students' personal statements. So often when we write letters of recommendations, students ask us if we'll review their personal statements. So talking about 2
They
things.
don't always ask, though.
They don't always ask. And that's a really good point, which we should talk about. Should we offer? Because we have so much work if they're not asking, and they might not know to ask. If they ask or if we offer, how do we advise them? What are good tips? But also for ourselves, what are best practices for managing that? Would anyone like to start?
So just to be clear, I just want to highlight, and I don't write letters of recommendation for everyone who asks me.
Right.
So, but
Same.
if I agree to, it means that I'm going to write a strong letter.
Right.
Among the things that I ask for is I ask to see their letter, their personal statement. And I will give feedback on it, whether it's, I will say, let me look at it. And then in many cases, I will say, let's talk about this letter. Because often I find, I don't know if your experiences, I find that they're not showcasing themselves. And I know it's hard for me. I struggle to showcase myself, but I want to model to them that it's something they should want to do. And this is the time and place. This is not, as somebody told me when I was going up before, this is not the time to start being shy. No, you step up and you shine. And so I try to help them do that.
I had an example recently, a really stellar student whose personal statement was very vague. Basically, here's why I got interested. Here's what I want to do with my career. Here's why I want to go to your school. But all of it felt very using sort of cliched, kind of passionate about, et cetera. And I read it, and because I talked to her, I got her passion. Like and she's great and super smart. And when I read it, I thought, is this the same student? And so, I mean, let me know what you think. So when I'm in a situation like that, what I usually do is I give them some sort of general feedback. I send them some links to sample personal statements online because there's several schools that offer different ones, and you can Google it, sample personal statements for psychology doctoral programs, and that they pop up, and they're not all great. And I actually will say, but they're all, you can get a sense of the letter writer from them. And then I say, I'm willing to look at another version, but I'm not willing, and I don't have the time to just go through it. And I also don't think it's fair because it has to reflect them. So I won't go through it with a fine tooth comb and change this word and wordsmith. And here's an example that you could start with. I won't do any of that. I mean, what do you think about my approach? Am I not doing enough?
Well, no, I think if it works for you, it works for you. I mean, that's an individual decision that faculty members have.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, that's why I don't know. I mean, does it work? Do the students end up, I don't know. What do you all do? I value all of your.
I think you're helping the students kind of help themselves in a way, right? Because we can spend so much time wordsmithing and poring over these personal statements that it gets to a point of whose is this? Is this my personal statements or the students anymore at this
Right.
point? So I think, by giving the students the resources to be able to revise things, that's a help, I think, in the long run. I don't spend a whole lot of time with the personal statements, quite honestly. I do a lot of recommendation writing, not for everyone, as Inka kind of indicated. I saw Susan and Eric nodding their heads about that too. The personal statements that I would be seeing in the context of letters of recommendation are for our students mainly who are going off to internship, which is a culminating year at the end of clinical psychology training. And we've got a director who looks at all the personal statements and does all that revising kind of work. So when it comes to me, I sort of know that my colleague is going to be providing that sort of feedback. So I might just say a couple things, but not an awful lot, quite honestly. So I'm a little bit checked out of the process. Sometimes if I notice that this doesn't reflect the student, I might say something, or if there are errors that are large, I might mention it. But beyond that, I kick the can down the road, or whatever the saying is.
Yeah, see, I realize as I'm thinking about it now, I've been pretty hands-on, but the thing is and I'm realizing the 3 students who over the last 3 years, they were all 3 of them not American, and English was not their first language. So, and they are all stellar. And when you looked at those letters, they were just flat. So I gave them a lot of time. Like the one I actually had a phone call with on Saturday, and I don't really do student stuff on the weekends. Just to say, look, where are you in this? And to say, let's think about how you can kind of shine. But that's not the norm. But yeah, I didn't even, again, here we go. I learned something from you. I didn't even know that there was a place you could go to look at sample personal statements. Now I know to send people there.
Can I ask everyone about how many letters of recommendation do you write per year? And I'm counting everything, like letters that you're writing for colleagues who are going for awards or up for promotion, letters you're writing for grad school or job. Like, how many letters of recommendation do you write a year?
That's a good question.
Altogether, probably 40 or 50.
Same.
Whoa.
Oh no, mine is not that high. I was
I
gonna
wrote
say
10. I wrote 10 in the past week. But the December 1st deadline.
Time. Yeah. I would say in the last year, maybe 6 to 10.
I was gonna say about a dozen.
I was wondering that because you're in a different, you're doing all graduate. So I think when you're doing graduate it's a different sort of model. And so I guess that's part of why I don't have the time. And you're actually making me think, Yinka, because I now only will do it if someone asks. And I also tell them that it's a lower priority than writing the letters because that has to be my first priority. But now I kind of wonder, like, which students don't even think to ask, and if there are things that's associated with, for example, do first gen college students who are applying to grad school not know that they can ask that? And I'm starting to wonder about my practice of
But Susan, no, let me clarify something. When they asked me to write a letter for them, I asked them for certain documents.
And I
And
do
then
too.
if I look at this personal statement and it seems a little meh, but I'll say, do you want? And actually, I'm thinking when I've offered, when I've said, do you want me to have a look at it? They're just like, oh, you will? Thank you, like,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you so much. They were very surprised, but again, these were not, I maybe it's just I have a very special soft spot for international students, having been one,
Yeah.
and knowing, you don't quite get what you're up against.
So I asked for statements too. So for all these letters I'm writing, I have the statements. But I mean, I don't know that I have the time to do it for every single person. And yet now I'm thinking, and I don't want to say no when they ask if I can find the bandwidth to do it. But now I'm thinking that my process is inequitable.
Well, Susan, knowing you, you're gonna micro analyze that, and you won't have time. So I ask for, a list of classes you've had with me with semesters and grade earned. I ask for, a draft of your personal statement if you have it, because they might not even have it by the time I'm writing the letters, and it might be a draft. Now,
It's usually a draft. That's a good point.
yeah,
Good point.
so but students who want me to look at, those really great students who want me to look at it, I kind of titrate my effort to them based on the effort they're willing to put in with me. Meaning, if they're just willing, if they send it to me as an email attachment and they kind of ask, hey, would be willing to look at this and send me some feedback? That means I'll look at it and I'll give it cursory feedback and send it back. If they schedule an appointment with me and they commit a half hour of their life to come in and sit with me or go over it in Zoom, that means I'll commit more of my life to go over it and give them more detailed feedback. So I'll try to match their commitment and their desire to get better on that task with the amount of time and devotion I give to giving them feedback on it, whether or not I'm actually writing for them or not. It doesn't really matter if I'm writing for them. If I can help them, I will. If they don't ask for it, they just send me their their personal statement, and I'm writing a letter for them already, I won't volunteer to look at their personal statement for them. Although the students I'm the closest with, like people who I'm really mentoring, they know we're already working on that together. It's a given as part of our relationship.
I guess in thinking about my own situation, I guess it just makes me wonder, who are the students who are willing to say, hey, can I come to your office hours / student hours and spend this time? And I'm wondering if that just correlates with students who have privilege in other ways.
It probably does, but I mean, you can only go into your classes so often and say, hey, you're welcome to do this and this. And
Yeah.
you can only be as friendly as you are, which we all know that you are. And if at some point, a student who is either rural or low income or minoritized or first gen, you can say it over and over, but at some point they have to take advantage of the opportunities afforded to them.
Yinka, you sparked an idea for me when you said, oh, you didn't realize that there were examples of personal statements out there. I have a form. It's lots of information. It's like 3 pages long. If you ask me for a letter, I send you that and I ask you for all these different things I want. And I tell you some tips, like I expect you to waive your right to see it because it looks bad if you don't, et cetera. All that's on there. Why don't I add a section that says, regarding personal statements, I typically don't have time to look, I have time to read them, but not to give a lot of feedback. So I want to give you some tips right now and put those links right there. And when I send to them,
It's a great
I
idea.
could do that.
Then they have it.
Or why not
Everyone has
turn
that.
that into a Google form, and then you could share the Google form with any faculty member who wanted it. And then they could customize the Google form for themselves.
Can you share it with us, please?
Absolutely.
Yes, you could.
I will add this to my letter of recommendation form, as I call it, and send it to all of you. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but if people out there who are listening want it, you can email me at susan.nolan@shu.edu And then you can give me feedback to make it better.
We'll send you to another form called feedback@susan.nolan.edu. dot.
I have changed so many things in what I do over the years based on feedback from valued colleagues and students.
Absolutely.
But then getting more efficient is also a good thing. So if you had those students feed that into a Google form, then you can actually go into a Google spreadsheet and retrieve it when you're ready.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that today. So
You mean not today at 6 p.m. local time?
but I will add
Oh,
this paragraph in the next 24 hours and send it to you. I do have time for that. And also I want to do it because I'll have more students asking me. I want to get it in there. So thank you for sparking that idea, Yinka.
Oh, thank you.
if only Yinka would spark more ideas. She's an idea sparker, that one.
I actually, maybe, can I end with a bit of a non sequitur?
No, but you can say anything you want that doesn't follow.
So I was listening to a This American Life podcast episode from this past Sunday it's called Sparkbird. And I know that Asani is a birder, and the sparkbird is apparently the bird that you observe that kicks off your love of birding. And I thought it was just such a nice term.
I love that.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And the guy in the story got really into it. His was a turkey vulture, and he had a whole long story about how that was. And anyway,
a turkey vulture.
yeah,
Only a face a mother can love.
he had gotten into it. And he'd seen some David Attenborough episode where they had buried a steak, and the vultures found it. So he thought, hey, I want to see a bunch of turkey vultures. So he spent a month in pursuit of a deer carcass that had been run over, and he brought it to his backyard, and he got 20 turkey vultures. And so his sparkbird is turkey vulture, but then they are using it in the context of the podcast in other ways. But I love the concept of a sparkbird.
I have to listen to that.
Yeah.
Mine was not a turkey vulture. It was a sweet little Anna's hummingbird at our feeder.
Oh,
Like iridescent head and, tiny little thing.
I mean, like you were saying with the turkey vulture, with the vultures.
There was no deer carcass in the yard or anything like
I can't handle all that.
Waited for a month. Let's talk about privilege.
Till it got really gnarly.
my sparkbird was in Chicago at the Midwestern Psychological Association. I was walking down the street the morning of, and there was this, what I later learned was a warbler, golden warbler. And it was on the street, on the sidewalk, just sort of, and I looked at it and it flew toward me, and I put my finger up and it landed on my finger like Snow White. I'm not making it up. I have pictures. And I walked to the Palmer House to MPA with the bird on my finger. And actually, you should leave this in the podcast because it's a great story. I went to the door and I said, I need a box for this bird, because at that point I thought it was not wild. And someone brought me a box, and I put it in a box, which I put in a bag. And then I wasn't staying at the Palmer House. They said, you can't bring it in. I said, I'm going to bring it to my hotel room. I lied. And they said, yeah, you can bring it to your hotel room. But I went straight to the session that I was moderating, which was a 90-minute long session. So I sat there on the dais with all the speakers.
And your bird in the box.
With the bird in the box underneath my seat. And it was dazed. And I put a phone call in to some organizations. I sent a picture. They're like, yep, this is a warbler. You can connect with somebody. It flew into a high rise. You can connect with somebody that you can bring it to. It seems like it's fine based on what you're saying, and we'll rehabilitate it and let it go. So I have the bird in the box under my seat, and everything's fine. It's quiet now. It's happy to be in the dark, and different people are, speaking and all of this going. And some of my friends, like my friend Shira Gabriel, who's a professor at SUNY Buffalo, like she knew this was going on and she was just dying laughing. And eventually it starts chirping. So I'm just sitting there and it's like making noises. I'm just looking around like, I don't know what's going on. Everyone's just, I don't know what's going on either. So it finally ends. And then I met my friend Neil Rubin for lunch. I'm waiting for them to get back to me. You probably know Neil from United Nations. He's a professor at Argosy, or was. And I met him for lunch at he picked a really nice place. And I show up and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, I've got a bird in a box. Don't tell anybody. A box and a bag. So we put it under the chair again, and the waiters are coming over and asking for our lunch orders, and it's chirping. And at some point, I finally get a call back from the organization. They're like, "Okay, we're in the lobby of the place where you're eating," and I bring it out and I give it to them. Yeah.
Wow.
What a story.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So the warbler is my spark bird.
Oh, wow. That is something.
Wow.
So I can write that on my next personal statement when I'm applying for something. I
Yes,
will
you
tell the
can.
story of MPA.
Yes, of the spark bird.
Mm, very cool.
I bet so
don't
many
know.
people were confused about why there was chirping happening at your feet. Like, why is Susan Nolan's feet chirping?
Why is that bag? Yeah.
What is happening?
How many times have you used that as a password, right? Warbler, Sparkbird.
And our audience should know that Eric is making really funny puns in the chat. A bird in the box is worth 2 in the high rise.
It's what I do.
You can cut all this if you like, Eric.
Oh, no. No, 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 no. No, no, no. It stays.
Well, thank you, my friends. This is going to
Thank you,
help me
everyone.
help students much better in terms of their personal statements.
So, thank you.
Find your own Sparkbird.